That's progress. That's what you want. That's what's going to set you free. Financial freedom, okay? This is where financial security comes in. And you can't have financial freedom unless you feel financially secure. Because if you're not financially secure, you're living in fear, a very real, tangible form of fear, where you're worried about keeping a roof over your head, where you're worried about keeping food on the table. Okay? Understand what I'm talking about and the simplicity of what I'm trying to get across here. So, the biggest threat to the establishment is sound currency. Why? Because as we make progress, your currency goes up in worth. $1 becomes worth $2. $2 becomes worth $5. You see where this thing goes? That people don't even care about money anymore. Everybody can do whatever they want at any given time. They can buy any services, any commodities out there at a nominal fee, and they don't have to even use any of their money. Okay, that's what it comes down to. Any significant amount. They use a little itty-bitty amount. Okay, that's what we want. And eventually, it's going to be rendered irrelevant. We're not going to need money. Eventually, it's just a means to an end, that we don't need any form of currency because we've got full prosperity. The system works. And the people that naysayers out there say, oh, it wouldn't work. So-and-so will be lazy and they'll just goof off and nobody's going to work. Society will break down. Well, prove it to me. Prove it to me, and you can't prove it to me because it has never been tolerated in history any appreciable amount of time for people to live by conscience, by integrity, and by honor, and completely free, in no need of Big Brother. Okay, and if you think you need to be Big Brother, we need a Big Brother over here. Somebody's got to be Big Brother and dictate. I agree we need rules. That's a whole nother thing. I mean, drunk driving, we need rules. Okay, we as a civilized society need to establish guidelines like God established the 10 Commandments. We have to live by the rules that God gave us through Jesus Christ, to the golden rule, to treating others the way we want to be treated. If you don't want people out there driving drunk, endangering your children or yourself or anybody else that you love out on the highway, then that's where rules come in. That's why we have rules. It's common decency. It's a civilization, a civilized society we're talking about here. So understand where this whole thing goes, okay? Is that it can be done, but they won't allow it, because once a society, a civilization, has an appreciable amount of time with sound currency, and they see the great benefits, the great joy it brings them, the contentment, the safety, the security, the prosperity, the freedom that it gives them. Okay, it doesn't have to be like the days of Rome and the debauchery and the decadence and all this crap, when the vomitoriums and all the orgies and all the... Look, that was then, this is now. We're living in a time that's unprecedented in history, and who can argue that fact? That's a fact. Knowledge keeps on building and growing. We don't want orgies out in the street, so why would we have Rome? We'd have rules against it. We'd say, no, that's indecent. We just don't want to, we don't want to see that. If you need to do that, you do it in the privacy of a confined area, okay? But this sort of thing. It's just one little example of the rules that we would need in order not to have, problems, mayhem. But basically, a time is coming when people like that aren't going to be here. If people that want to have orgies out in the street or whatever, they've got to go to a different place, where that's allowed. But we're all sinners, but we all don't give into it to that extent. Sin is not coming through all of us, and there's a big difference between those that promulgate sin, promote it, right now, currently, for a profit. They're doing it for money. This is what motivates everybody. Everybody needs money. Well, of course I'm a prostitute, the woman said. I need money. Of course I'm a gigolo, whatever. I need money. I am a naked dancer, whatever it is. It's all about the money, you know what I mean? So understand that these things also would go away in time as people don't need money. And we live in an unprecedented time. We're not going to have orgies out in the street or any of these kind of social ills. These things, too, would go away. So the point is out there that we could be entirely free, but who is they? They don't want you to know. That's the illegitimate overlords at the very top, the grand deceivers. These people know they are deceivers. And the way they control the people, continue to, is through violence. They're willing to commit murder. They're willing to use trickery and sorcery and just conjure up every kind of nasty uh, uh, type of propaganda they can out there to keep people stupid, brainwashed, indoctrinated, and just dumbed it down. Okay, because if the people ever figure this out, they will become empowered. They have equal power, and they say, "No, you're not. I'm not going to allow you to be a murderer or to hire murderers to keep getting your spoiled brat ways." We're taking over. It's not going to say Federal Reserve on the dollars. It's going to say we the people until we're done with it. We'll use it as a means to an end, sound currency, and we're going to be free. We're not going to have any more debt because we don't have any more poor people, because we have sound currency. We're not going to have any more dubious war. Men will go off to a war with a just cause freely. They don't need to be conscripted. They'll go kick Hitler's butt or anybody else's butt. They have to. That's the nature of the beast, the man. That's his instinct to do that thing. That's what we do. Okay, we're not going to have the crime. Okay, once people don't need the money, I mean, the guys say, "Hey, I'm getting $25,000 a year, minimum guaranteed income. I can go out there, I can rent the house, I can buy a house, I can live here for a while, live there, and I could do this job or that job, and whatever it is. But I've got a conscience that I've got to listen to. That's my umbilical cord, my connection to God. My relationship depends on me contributing." Okay, me being a part of society, a civilized society, where everything was given to me free from birth. This was my parents' reality and their parents' reality, and now it's my reality. It's not because of a decree of man, not this guy talking to you, not any other politician or ruler out there. It's not by their laws or decrees. It comes from above. It's a divine decree that tells you, here you go. I am God Almighty. This is a universe. This is a galaxy. You live in this galaxy. You live in a solar system. Here's your spot in that solar system, the third rock from the sun, and you call it Earth, okay? This is what our situation is, and God has given us this Earth. God has no shortage of real estate, okay? Understand the nuts and bolts of this whole thing and how our paradigm should be His paradigm, and that's what's coming in the new age. So as we enter the new age and we end this old age of violence and tyranny and oppression and the money-based satanic goings on, because that's the root of the whole problem, is in the money. This is the master, a competing master. Jesus said this. I'm not just making stuff up. He said this: you can't serve two masters. You must hate the one. What is the one? The money. This is Satan's method of operation, his modus operandi, his MO is the money. He could not do the things he does without the money. He cannot control us. And these evildoers at the top know that. And they're not conservative. They're not liberal. They're not Democrat. They're not Republican. They're not socialist or communist or capitalist or crony capitalist. They're just evildoers. Understand, they just want to stay in control. They want to keep their money printing exclusive privilege and keep controlling people, continue to be unfathomably wealthy. It's like ruling the earth. It's like Satan owns the whole world, and those that are willing to serve him and step outside the bounds of common decency, abandon their conscience, will be rewarded. Isn't that the promise? So that's the whole idea. Either, you've got to, if you can't beat us, then join us. Isn't that what we're talking about here? If you can't beat us, join us. And the fools haven't joined us, and that's why, they're suffering so much hardship and misery, is that they say they won't abandon their conscience. They're being loyal and faithful to God. They say, you know what? I know this world is a dying place. I know that we're going to be free from this someday. I know Jesus Christ is going to rule over the affairs of men someday. I know that this planet is going to be cleansed from all unrighteousness, that death itself will be swallowed up in victory as we get these renewed bodies that are promised, where there's no more thorns on a rose, there's no more punishing heat, there's no more miserable cold, there's no more miserable stinging insects out there, there's nothing bad at all. Gravity itself is no more deadly. Okay, our atomic structure is so superior that we simply can't die. We don't get diseases anymore. That is what you need to look forward to. So if it seems like a big stretch to imagine a society, a world, a civilization entirely operating without money, If that's hard for you, then how hard is it for you to imagine death being swallowed up in victory? So you've got to take that mustard seed of faith that Jesus talked about and put it to use and cultivate it. Let it grow and say, God, help my unbelief. Because Jesus asked, he says, I'll be faithful. I can't lie. God can't lie. I will return. But will I find faith on the earth? Okay, and I admit my faith is this big, okay, because there's just so many things that shake me up. I say, God, how do you let all this stuff happen? My whole life I've had to watch the destruction of America take place through unsound currency. First, the assassination of JFK, who tried to give us sound currency. Oh, we'll blow this guy's brains out. The vast majority of Americans to this day don't believe the official story, but the mainstream media doesn't. There's, it's crickets coming from these people when it comes to discussing these things. Hey, mainstream media, answer me this. Whatever became of Executive Order 11,110? Look it up. JFK was abolishing the Federal Reserve. He was already circulating an alternative currency, sound currency, silver notes. Okay, talk about that. Just because the man was murdered, why were his policies murdered with him? Let's get some answers from you people, okay? Just one person listening to my videos. I know I've got a tiny audience, and I'm fine with that. But if one person takes, if you can take a spark from something I say and you turn it into something else, maybe you could convey these things to people better than I can. I know I'm not the most cogent or coherent person out there. I know I digress a million different directions. My brain is going a million miles an hour, and I just want to edify. I just want to instruct properly from God's point of view. I would just want to be his mouthpiece. I want things that are good for humanity to come through me that help. Now, word on I got a video clip from the Alex Jones channel on YouTube. The reporters were at another Trump rally, and the protesters were there. And of all things, something very encouraging happened that really surprised me, is that they started talking a little bit. And they started realizing they had stuff in common. We all need to understand, we're scared. That is the common theme here, is that people are scared. These protesters are scared of the direction of the country. They are sick and tired. They don't know economics. They haven't been taught this stuff in school. They don't know what crony capitalism means. It needs to be explained to these people in very simple terms, because they didn't learn it in school. They didn't learn it in college. So you need to educate these people about basic economic principles. And you've got to know basic economic principles in order to do that. Okay? The reason I'll say that John Keynes was a good... Hey, listen, the idea of a minimum guaranteed income is a Keynesian philosophy. And to those naysayers that say, oh, well, that would cause rampant inflation. It doesn't if you don't allow it to cause inflation, okay? You say no, because every year we're giving a cost of living adjustment, okay? Just like it's justified to give a Social Security adjustment if your cost of living is going up. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to afford your bills anymore. As your bills go up and you don't get a commensurate cost of living adjustment, what's going to happen? It doesn't take a rocket scientist, a brain surgeon to figure these things out. It's all very, very simple. But the reason it seems difficult to understand is because no relevance has been given it in our educational system. They should teach this stuff as early as kids are ready. 6th grade, I say start teaching kids basic economic principles about supply and demand, and why stuff should go down in cost if the supply is increasing, okay? And if you've got plenty, the price should be nominal. It's just like housing. We've got more extra housing in America than ever before in history. Well, according to the law of supply and demand, the cost for housing should be cheaper than ever before in history. Your housing dollars should be worth more than ever before in history. Why aren't they? Because there's collusion and price fixing, special interest groups that have driven it up because they want you enslaved. They benefit, they profit when you lose. That's it. That's their bread and butter. All the people, 25% of Americans employed in the financial services industry. It's not in their interest that you're out of debt. That's their livelihood, okay? Understand that the problems now are etched in stone, and it's going to be like pulling teeth to solve the problems, because people's jobs revolve around the problems persisting and preferably proliferating the problems for job security. Understand, these are the facts. I'm not being cynical, and I'm not a nut. Okay, I know what the hell I'm talking about. I've studied this subject long and hard, and I know what will work. There's more than one way to skin a cat. So this minimum guaranteed income is one way people are figuring out. Yes, and who could say it wouldn't be good for their business, for whatever services, whatever commodities that you offer the public? Okay, just think of all the people then that could purchase those